podcast.
All right. Welcome back to the podcast. I don't even know what episode it is because we've been going crazy. The season is among us. The nutty nut of nut is going on right now. I don't even know what I was going to say. Sorry.
I think we're 160. Don't quote me on that, but I think
Yeah,
we're
well,
160 because we're still
all right.
resonating from Jake Bennett.
Yeah, okay. No, so I think you're right. 160 it is. But for you guys that don't know, this is your boy East Coast Trev, and
This is Steve.
what's up, Steve, man? What a craziness of going on. Oh shit, I almost forgot. The Madman Martic is in studio with us. What's up, buddy?
What's up?
We're gonna say I see him back there cheesing.
Yeah. He didn't, I gotta be honest, he didn't want to do the whole and the Madman Martic. He didn't want to do it on his own. So I figured he said,
Yeah,
dude, just
lead him in.
introduce me. Yeah, for sure. Oh, it's kind of actually weird. We had a little bit of technical difficulties at the beginning of this because my studio hasn't been set up to record more
Dude,
than one person.
It's been
in
over
months.
a month since we've even recorded.
Do you know something very funny? And we could probably take this intro and put it on 15 podcasts before because we always say the same thing. We haven't been in the studio forever, like.
Yeah, we're just
Sorry.
recording bulk and let it rip.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we had the craziness. I mean, Huntstock was a great time. You guys have all heard those podcasts. If you haven't, probably go back and check those things out. But we had a great time with everybody there. That was a great event. Patrick from Hunt Suburbia put that on, and we're looking forward to the growth of that. That was, you guys have obviously heard about all that stuff, and as it goes on, and then we rolled right into season. I mean, things have kind of gotten a little bit crazy. Season prep for you, Steven. And I thought for sure that the season had started a little bit earlier for you, but that's only turkey season because it gets. And I was thinking about this the other day, like
we were talking about it.
Yeah, because turkey season starts earlier down there and ends earlier. We start later and last longer, and it's vice versa with deer season because your warm weather drags on a little bit longer than ours.
So
we
I
last.
can argue that for once this year, it's weird. We've been in like the low 80s, high 70s for the last 2 weeks.
Jeez.
We're usually 95, 100.
Wow.
This is stupid right now.
I think 3 days ago, what the 15th was. No, the 16th.
The night of the 15th.
The night of the
40s.
In the 40s. 44
Jeez.
up here.
For a low.
For a
And-
low.
Tomorrow, so as we record this, it would be Wednesday. For you guys, may get even lower than that. There's a huge cold front coming, and I'm like, man, why can't this happen during deer season?
Ugh, that's wild. Yeah, I didn't even see what it was. I didn't even look at it, to be honest
Well,
with you.
just like last week, hot for the week, and then it's going to drop for the weekend.
And just dumps off.
There's been some, and I'll tell you this, there's been some great deer here that have been taken, like some very good deer. Like the first couple of days there wasn't, but as it starts to trickle on, like the weekend, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there was some good deer that were taken up here, and it's good to see, and it's still some in velvet, which is kind of cool. There's some good ones that were taken in velvet, so it's
Nice.
It's huge congrats to those guys because I mean, getting on an early season deer, obviously, as we'll learn in this podcast, is not an easy thing to do,
Well,
right?
when I dropped my deer off at the processor Friday morning, she told me I was deer number 10. So she took in
Damn.
10 deer from opening day.
Wow.
She said last year, the first day of the season where she took in 9 deer in one day was November 2nd.
Really?
Wow.
So she told me.
Wow.
So opening day numbers match November 2nd of 2021.
That's fantastic. And I've had a couple different conversations in my travels in the past couple of weeks here, and guys are seeing across the board that there's just a ton of deer as they're driving, as they're, just the big boom of them, and seeing more deer and just a lot better things. I mean, the pulse of the turkeys has been a lot better, and so you're starting to see some good return here because we were all kind of nervous, but I don't know if it has to do with like our oaks are starting to drop oaks. I mean, acorns again after a couple of years.
Don't let your oaks drop.
The thing I know,
They always drop.
The thing I noticed with the seeing deer driving around was we weren't seeing a lot of deer driving around most of the summer because we were in the heavy drought, and the grass was torched. It was just brown. And then we finally got rain, like good rain for like a couple times a week for like 2 weeks, and everything turned green again, and all of a sudden the deer are hitting the fields again.
Gee, yeah, It's nuts. It's great to see that, that's happening. I mean, I don't know what it is down south for you.
It's identical here. We had that dead drought dry, like my food plots are struggling.
Yeah.
But the grass is starting to pop back after this little bit of rain. So
it's funny that you say that, and it brought something up in my head. Is I have my food plot that I've been working on, as you guys all know. I mean, it's nothing compared to a lot of you guys, but after that rain, I had set up a camera in the middle of the thing, and there's like some switchgrass on the outside of it, and that's where the camera had been pointing, and there had been some minerals there, and I haven't been in there a while. I've been real busy, and after the rain, the switchgrass had grown so fucking much that when it had rained, the grass had moved up, and I just get straight pictures of grass. Like it's in grass. Like I'm like, what the frig? I gotta get in there. I really need to just go in there and hunt and shoot a doe, I think. But it is what it is, and it's good to see. I wonder what my food plot's doing, dude. It is what it is, but because that drought scared me. That really did. And then
it hurt here, so I hope you had better luck.
Well, when I had planted, it had then downpoured the next day.
Oh,
and then 2 days later after that, it downpoured. No, like torrential downpour, like almost washing it out. Rain, like almost too much rain.
Out your seed.
That, or it's going to be all on one side. I hope it's my tree stand side.
What I'm hoping is that it came in, it drilled it into the soil for you before it took the soil off. That's what happened. I'm going to stick by it.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm going to go in there. I'll have to go in there and check it out. But before we take off on this tangent of whatever is going on in our worlds, and I haven't asked yet before, let's go through the sponsors, thank those guys, and then we can get back to normal details of what's going on. What do you guys think?
Yeah, dude, roll it out.
All right. First off, Huntworth, huntworthgear.com. If you guys aren't hunting with Huntworth, you're probably a fool, to be honest with you. I've been hunting with it now through the early season. I bear hunted with it and then came back and deer hunted with it. And I'll tell you what, for when it's hot, like it's 70, 75, they're light because we have the layers. The lightest stuff really honestly kind of keeps you cool because it's very breathable. It's very pliable. It works very, very well. And then you start to layer yourself up as it gets colder in the evening or whatever. It's very good stuff. I'm very impressed. I haven't found a downfall on it yet. I haven't blown out a seam. I haven't, because we've worked with some other companies and whatever, but Huntworth is definitely, and the built-in mask is probably one of my favorite things.
That's the coolest thing ever. I ain't even gonna lie.
It is. It truly, honestly is. And with their new stuff that's coming out, I'm looking forward to it. What is that stuff called?
I'll have to go through and pull up notes, but it's a new technology that basically it stores your body heat and returns it to you when it's cold out. I mean, it's really cool. If you go to our YouTube video or our YouTube channel, there's a video on it that Huntworth produced that walks you through it, and it is freaking awesome. I know we sound like idiots because I'm asking Steven about it, but it's so new to us and we haven't even gotten our hands on it. We don't know much about it is what that's all about. Bow Fishing Magazine, bowfishingmagazine.com. If you guys aren't on that, go and check those guys out. Nick Sampson, Mob Squad. He's done a ton for the podcast, and what he's got going on there with his digital magazine is absolutely phenomenal. And actually their sponsorship is on the decline, and we're going to pick up Racket. They're coming back in for the fall months as they always do. And you guys will hear more about those guys. If you guys are, you have some old mounts, you need to get off the floor or whatever, Rack Bracket is probably the best European mount holder you've ever put your hands on, hands down. If you have kids and they throw bowling balls around the house, you don't even have to worry about your Euro mount hitting the floor, in my honest opinion. I use it in my shop all the time. Nor'easter Game Calls, nor'eastergamecalls.com. Guys, I don't even know if, honestly, after Huntworth, I'm not even sure that Mark has a grunt tube in stock. No, he's hurting. Trust me.
And we talk about these things all the time as far as like the grunt tubes and how great they are. But when people put their hands on them, they don't last long.
It was fun to watch.
It's incredible to watch.
It was fun to watch him fly off the shelf at Huntstock.
Because the Jurassic series, I don't even think that he might have a couple more left. But like we told you guys to get on it, there was a couple weeks there that were, where they weren't, there was a couple of them on the shelf. and then he brought them to Huntstock.
He didn't go home with any from whatever he brought to Huntstock. Sold.
I think he sold 20 of
every
them.
One of them.
Yeah, and the stuff that he has going on over there, guys, get over to nor'eastergamecalls.com. Check out the stuff and get yourself a grunt tube. I know that there is some on the website. I'm not gonna. We're just joking, but he did sell an absolute metric ton of them. So go and check them out. nor'eastergamecalls.com.
Did you guys
also
see
the people that we
call that he just turned out for me,
dude? The stuff that he has going. No, I haven't seen that personally, but was it in one of the 6 that he did recently?
No, it was the post before the 6, the black and gray.
Oh, no, I didn't even see it. No,
I had just hit him up and said, "Hey, do you have any laying around?" And he went, let's get one put together. Let's figure it out. What do you want to do? What colors? So I was like, don't do anything crazy. He goes, well, what colors? I said, black and gray.
Because that's what you did your grunt tube in, right?
Blue and white.
Okay.
But I figured goose, black and gray,
Yeah, which is cool. And I'll have to go and look at that.
He threw it into a piece of cottonwood, and this thing turned out so damn cool. I was shocked. I was like, how do you do this? Honestly, how do you do it? It's art.
It is absolutely art. I'm gonna have to look at that because I'm excited to see that. To be honest, I really am.
Yeah,
the stuff that he comes up with is insane. I can't get over it. They're just works of art. The people that we believe in, Zeus Broadheads, newairarchery.com. Guys, the Hera is on the market. It is for sale. The Hera is out. If you guys haven't checked those out, you might want to get over to New Air Archery and check those out. The Zeus Broadheads, there is nothing wrong with the Zeus Broadhead. It is probably by far, it's probably killed more animals than any other broadhead that they make. It's the greatest. I love the Zeus. The only reason going to the Hera, obviously, it's a new product, and it's a 2-blade over a 4-blade. But great product. Check them out. newairarchery.com. The B16, the Steady Form. There's a couple of things also on there, not just the Zeus Broadheads. Vital Ground Outdoors. We're not, we saved the best for last. Vital Grounds Outdoors. Matt Chola over there. He's been doing an amazing job with the AM steel and the things that he's making. We all use his stuff regularly on our climbing sticks, our rope mods, daisy chains, aiders, the PSH. I mean, there's so much stuff. The quick
clicking sticks,
the clicking sticks. I mean, there's just so many things that he's over there designing and making. If you guys are looking to mod some of your hunting gear, that's the place to go. vitalgroundoutdoors.com. So check those boys out. I know it's a short list, but
dude, you nailed it for being a month off. That was pretty.
Well,
slick.
I have notes. I have notes, bro. I mean, it's not like it's not rocket science. We just read the notes. I'm not that good.
I'm surprised you found the notebook.
We try to pull.
Yeah, story of my life, bro. I mean, what do you expect from me? It's the monotony has already started. I'm not gonna lie to you.
What monotony?
The craziness
of what?
Of everything. It's hunting season, bro. The amount of things that have gone through my head already, like, I suck at this. Why am I hunting? Like, those things have definitely gone through my head. Like, already.
Triggers. Yeah, but you had a rather particular, I'm going to say, difficult situation at bear camp. Like, you busted your ass. And I can understand why you ran into that because of the situations. Because that's tough.
So listen, there was no lack of bears at bear camp. Big Machias, Jeff at Big Machias, Jeff and Corey at Big Machias are hands down the most amazing people. Their operation is next to none. The boys, Eric, Tyler, Seth, Kenny, Tommy, all of his guides over there, Ted, amazing guys. They do amazing job. They go above and beyond for all of their clients. It's just it's in the most beautiful place in the world. It's in Ashland, Maine. I was just reluctant and happy to be there. It was insane to me. Honestly, it was probably one of the most beautiful places. I love the Northwoods, and I've drove by it 1,000,001 times. And my good buddy Chris has been telling me, come to bear camp. And I'm like, I don't really have any interest in killing a bear. Like, I do, but I don't, right? Like, we all talk about it. Like, I wanted to go kill one with you in Virginia. Mm-hmm. Like, I do want to kill one, but it's not like, I don't really want to go out of my way to kill one. But after I've gone to bear camp, the camaraderie in bear camp is probably by
There's nothing like bear camp's just different.
It's totally different.
It's its own. Bear camp is just, there's nothing.
There's no words to describe it. So I had arrived up there for opening day before we go into the stories.
Let's bring everybody a quick update on the news.
Oh, yeah. I get excited.
Bringing you the news for the cruise is our good buddy Mike Salter. Take it away, Mike.
Hey everyone, we're going to kick this one off in New Mexico in a big win for public access to public waters. The Supreme Court has ruled again in support of the public's ability to walk or wade stream beds crossing privately owned lands. This opinion ruling follows its unanimous decision in March to strike down a regulation that allowed landowners to close access to streams flowing through their properties. These decisions are due to a lawsuit filed in 2020 by New Mexico's chapter of BHA, the New Mexico Wildlife Federation, and Adobe Whitewater Club of New Mexico, asking the court to nullify the regulation as unconstitutional. So a big win for public access due to hunting group's efforts there. Now to Michigan, where the DNR's Outdoor Skills Academy staff and state champion caller Joe Duncan are holding a waterfowl hunting clinic this Saturday, the 24th, at the Carl T. Johnson Hunting and Fishing Center at Mitchell State Park in Cadillac. This will be an A to Z class on how to hunt waterfowl, and will cover everything you need to know to get started, including how to find locations, scouting, calling, and gear. The class will be 4 to 5 hours starting at 10 a.m., and we'll start with classroom instruction and then move outside to demonstrate setting up your hunting site and decoys, calling, and more. Registration for that program is $30, and that registration can be completed on DNR's website. Now to Nebraska, and some unfortunate news for pheasant hunters. Due to vendors not being able to provide pheasants this year, the Game and Parks Commission will not be releasing pen-raised pheasants before the youth pheasant season and the Thanksgiving holiday this year. Hunters are still being encouraged to get out and hunt during those seasons, and the 48 controlled shooting areas, which are privately owned, are another option for hunters to hunt pen-raised birds. Other options for youth hunting include attending a free youth mentor event for those 12 to 15 years old, and participating in the Next Steps Hunt program, both of which are sponsored by Pheasants Forever. So although it's unfortunate that there will be less opportunity, there are still options out there, especially for use to get the hunters in the field. Now to Connecticut, where waterfowl hunters are being asked to voluntarily avoid shooting hens and young brown eiders this season. Following an unusual mortality event this spring due to avian influenza, the Canadian Wildlife Service is anticipating a decline in numbers, and has New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island hunters have been asked to reduce their harvests of eiders this season. Southern New England is the terminus for breeding eiders, and his thought is that it would be irresponsible to ask Canadian hunters to reduce harvesting, only to have them harvested here in Connecticut. Voluntarily reducing harvest will allow time for the eider populations to recover, and hopefully not result in changes to bag limits in the future. Now lastly to Rhode Island, in a state record false albacore. John Elderossi of Medford, Mass. Caught a new state record false albacore, which came in at 29 inches and 12 pounds 12 ounces. The fish tops the current state record of 12 pounds 5 ounces caught in 1990. So congratulations to John on a great fish. As always, if you have any news to send along to me, it'd be appreciated. You can reach out to me at Mike Salter on Facebook or bearded_bowhunter21 on Instagram. And with that, enjoy the rest of your ride.
Good old Mike. I didn't forget about you, buddy. I just get so excited with everything that's going on, buddy. Appreciate everything that you do for the podcast. And you guys, as always, make sure to send over the news for the cruise, or send over news for the cruise to our good buddy, Mike Salter. You can find him on Instagram, Facebook, so on and so forth, or contact us through theoutdoordrive.com. But going back on what I was saying, the bear camp, it's a different world, right? Like you get up there. The first thing that we did, we had stopped up and we had stopped on the eastern shore of Maine and got 50 pounds of lobster. So we get into camp and Denny, yeah, dude, it's wild, bro. I didn't realize it. So Chris was like, dude, you're going to eat like kings when you're up there. And like, you know, as we always, like when we go on outings, we all kind of like a potluck thing. Like we all bring a little bit of something. We go, oh, I'm going to cook breakfast today and cook it. That's how they do it up there at camp. So Denny's thing on opening night, when we roll into town on Sunday, he cooks up lobsters. So we did 50 pounds of lobsters. Now this is what I walk into, right? And it's like home to me. Literally, I feel like I'm home. I feel like I'm gone and seen. Now, mind you, I don't know anybody there but Chris. And I go there and I felt like I went and visited my aunt and uncles and cousins in northern Maine. That's how it feels up there. You talk about Southern hospitality. Southern hospitality has nothing on Northern hospitality, and that is the God on truth. So as you roll into camp, Denny, we bring the lobsters. He starts cooking lobsters. Everybody comes down and sits. All the guides in our camp, and all the guides come over and they're eating lobsters. Now this is the start of it, right? And we're telling stories and things are great. Now everyone's drinking beer, hanging out. The first night you wake up, you enjoy the sunrise, you hang out with everybody, and then you get into the woods and you get back to work. And it was so cool to just learn everything throughout the entire trip of how this operation works. And obviously I went up there as a taxidermist to help skin with Chris and then do skull work and stuff. So I'm kind of like a worker at this point, right? So I'm hunting at night, and then the next morning I wake up and I'm skinning bears with those guys, meeting everybody in camp, talking to everybody, working with Chris, hanging out, getting to know everybody. So by the end of that week, they asked me to stay a second week to work. Chris had to come back home, but they needed somebody to stay and skin taxidermy. So I was like, well, I'll stay, man. I don't got nothing going on and I'll hunt, like I didn't really get on bears for the first 3 days. My bait didn't even get hit, which happens. This is part of it. And so I had moved on Thursday to go to another bait and I didn't see anything. And just, me being me, I'm like, I'm going to check that other bait. My camera's still up there. I got to pull it, but let me go in there and check it. So I go in there and check it, and it had been hit, crushed. From then on, every single night, within a half an hour to an hour, my bait got absolutely smashed every night. And I don't know if it was an entrance thing or it was just big mature bears or whatever the case may be. I just couldn't, in the first week, I couldn't get on a bear, which was fine. They had killed a pile of bears that week, so it was still fun for me and seeing everything, right? Thursday started trapping season. So we ended up Friday morning or Saturday morning, we end up setting a trap. And one of the guys in camp with us, Dave, he's going to trap. So I got to run around with Jeff and the boys and learn how to trap them. And for me, that was just, I was blown away. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, man. I've always been into trapping, and it's not what you think with a big leg hole trap. They use a tube trap, and it's about 24 to 36 inches deep, and it's got like it's a 6-inch tube with a welded bottom on it. You put the bait down in the bottom. It's got like a cage inside of it, and they go to put their arm in it. And when they go to pick up, there's like a lobster bag with food inside of it. When they go to pick it up with their claws, they pick up, there's a collar on the outside, and it has an arm snare on the outside, a locking arm snare with a spring on
giant dog proof.
It's like a giant, more or less, right? Yeah. I mean, but it doesn't lock you into that tube. It goes to a snare cable that locks onto their arm, and then it's tied to a tree. And you put a 30-pound rock on top of it, 40-pound rock on top of it, and they flip the rock off. They put their arm in there, grab it. Now they're snared to the arm. What an amazing time. I mean, dude, when we walked up to that, Dave had gotten a bear, and the bear went 316 pounds, giant black bear. And it was just the coolest experience to be part of that and see Dave shoot that bear. We had trapped another one later on the day, but trying to trick them. And they're a lot smarter than you think. They do, like every other animal, it's just tough, right? I mean, they're in that bait and learning, you would think in your mind, right? You would say somebody who doesn't really bait, you would just fill the barrel up to the top and then just let them come into it. No, you would think if you have 6 bears on a bait that you would want to have as much bait as possible. But no, you want to instill competition in that bait site and get them bears to come in earlier than others. And I mean, Steve knows about it. We talked back and forth throughout the whole entire camp to try and do some different tricks. So on the second week, all these bears are smashing my baits. And there was on the first night, so like Saturday or whatever, after they had started smashing my baits, I had an absolute giant on there, like a monster, like 4+, like just absolute giant bear. And I was like, I want to shoot that bear. Well, the next night after I had left off the stand, 20 minutes after I had left off the stand, a bear comes in, and it's a double ear tagged sow, and she was probably 250, real big sow. And I'm like, wow, this is insane. So I have this big bear on this bait. I have this sow on this bait. Later on that night, an even bigger, well, not a bigger bear, but in between the sow and the big bear, there's a single ear tag, which is a nuisance tag. So it had a yellow ear tag. The sow had 2 orange ear tags. The single tag was a big boar, and he was smashing the baits. And I'm like, dude, so there's 3 big bears plus whatever else is coming into this bait, and it's all coming in at night. I'm like, there's got to be some type of competition, right? They're going to show up in the light. Nothing ended up showing in the light. I don't know if I was doing something wrong or whatever, but I was starting to get frustrated. You guys all know me. I get frustrated because I'm like, well, why is this not working, right? Is my entrance wrong? Now I'm getting my tactics of my deer hunting.
You start
in my
overthinking
mind.
it.
Dude, I'm like, am I doing something wrong? You know, I'm spraying down with caramel smell, like spray. I'm like,
the biggest donut that bear's ever seen.
I'm like, you know, to like cover my scent. Dude, I mean, you're trying to do everything under the sun to like, are my full, you know, the wind, and, you know, the wind's not normally a thing, you know, like, is it, you know, the bait, is it, you know, at the last couple of days, I wasn't even bringing my camera with me because, like, am I like, you know, is it more shit in the tree? I'm leaving things in the tree to make it silhouetted so that when they're there, they're not worried about me. Like, I'm leaving my chair up there. Now, for you guys that bear hunt, know that that's a risk. Leaving anything in the woods is a risk. They eat fucking cameras like Skittles. They, you know what I'm saying? They climb trees and steal. There was a story, one of the guys, he was from Ohio, and they call him Pumpkin, and he's an old coal miner. And last year he had gotten, they, you know, they like to drink. So he ends up falling asleep in a lawn chair in a ground blind. They use a lot of ground blinds, built natural ground blinds, because I mean, there's a liability in the North Woods of somebody being in a tree stand. So they're on the ground, and the dude Pumpkin fell asleep in the tree stand, and he wakes, in the ground blind, and wakes up, and his barrel is down. The bears came in, ate everything. He wakes up and everything's gone, right? So he leaves his seat cushion in the chair that night. And when he comes back in the morning, the chair is absolutely destroyed. There's no remnants of the, there's remnants, but like no remnants of, there was actually a seat cushion. They ripped it to shit. He was so petrified of going back in the woods that he literally was wide awake the entire time. Like, literally did not drink the rest of the trip or nothing because he was so nervous that he was going to get eaten by the bears. Like,
right.
You don't mess with those, with the black bears up there. But no, it was just a crazy experience. I mean, we killed, like I said, 41 bears in camp in 9 days. Jeez. Before I had left, there was an weight average of 209.
That's a good average,
which is insane. Yeah. They were saying for this year is just, normally it's like 130. So, you figure there's a lot bigger bears, and a lot of it has to do with them trapping now. There was 6 big bears. I don't know if you guys know who the Jared Burke Foundation is, or ever heard of the Jared Burke Foundation.
Can't say I'm familiar.
So Jared Burke was killed, and we'll probably have him on the podcast. His brother started the foundation to get people out in the woods, and he takes wounded veterans and people with, physical disabilities, not only targeted towards veterans, but he was up there and they did some trapping. Those guys trapped 2 giant bears, Scott, and I forget the other gentleman's name. But they trapped 2 giant bears. Scott's actually from Illinois. He's actually listens to the podcast now, but,
I'm sorry.
He trapped. Yeah, that's what I said. He had messaged me.
You listened to a couple episodes.
Scott messaged me the other day, and Scott says, I absolutely love the podcast. I started back listening from the beginning. I says, well, you're a fool, because that is a horrible idea. He goes, no, it's very entertaining in my 50-minute drive. And I said, well, we appreciate it, man, and appreciate what you did for us. But no, so he had trapped a real big bear. But there was a ton of them, man. there was a couple of really good bears and stuff, but I cannot wait to go back to camp up there. Those guys are next to none. Some of the best people I've ever been in camp with. No offense to you guys, but they just run a great operation. They're just great people, just normal blue collar guys that want to go out and hunt, and they just happen to have a camp, in my opinion. And they know what they're doing. The other thing that was kind of crazy, a ton of white patches.
Really?
Yeah, we had a couple full V white patches, double dots. There was a pile of them. That big bear, the biggest bear that I had on my bait, looked like he had a cape on the front, because it literally came down and was this big, huge white V on his chest.
Dude, that's cool.
I have a video of him coming off the frosting, and he's walking across in front of the camera, and it's just got this giant white V. Like, look at me, dude. I'm King Tut. Like, it was impressive. It was cool. It was just a learning curve, man. I'll end up shooting a bear up there, obviously, but it was just fun, dude, to be in camp and all that. And obviously the frustration, because I was like, why the frig can't I kill a bear? And of course, and then they're razzing on me. They're like, oh, well, you're East Coast Trev and you have to shoot something. Like, you know what I'm saying? You know how that camaraderie goes into your, they're like, oh, I thought you can kill animals. And I'm like, yeah, I can, but these bears are special, I guess. I don't know, but
they're intimidated by you.
What is the bears?
Yeah.
They fall in the same category as Virginia turkeys for you.
Maybe it's just, you see a trend here, Steve?
A little bit. Stay home.
I'll take it. Oh, I fucking suck here too. So it doesn't really help me. It's nuts, hilarious, man. Yeah. So it was fun, dude. It was a great time. Anybody looking to do a bear hunt, or you pull a moose tag, or you want to go up bird hunting or whatever, Big Machias Camps is probably the best place to be. I'd imagine that, the three of us and some other dudes from the Outdoor Drive will probably share camp up there in the future sometime.
Fill a week with all your buddies. There's nothing like
that. And I'll be honest, man, for what it is, for what the camp is, obviously they might go up in prices or whatever, but for a week's hunt, bear hunting, lodging, you bring your own food, but lodging and everything was like $1,800 for a week, which
can't
5-day hunt.
5-day hunt,
yeah,
which is cheaper than a lot of places, I think.
Oh yeah,
$1,800. Mm-hmm. You just bring your own food. They have a shower house there. I mean, it's pretty, it's propane lights and stuff, but for what it is, I mean, it's a very good bear hunt, very cheap bear hunt. But I mean, I was unsuccessful, but we'll see what happens. Steve, what did you do? Because you've been managing a lot of craziness.
Just dealing with the chaos, man. We got a message from our forester 2 weeks ago, and he said, I'm going to be in there the first weekend of October to start thinning the property. And I went, you've got to be kidding me. Because that's opening weekend of deer season.
Oh, no.
I was like, well, that's going to blow the woods out. So I was like, whatever, I'll sacrifice the season because we can get the thinning done, get the food plots in. I'll bite the bullet here and just hope for the best. And turned out he got out there Wednesday last week and said, hey, we're getting the pads cut. We're getting everything laid in. We're going to start cutting on Thursday. I said, all right, I'll be there Friday. Got down there Friday, got to meet with Steve from Virginia Custom Thinning and meet some of his crew. Go out and did a lot of really interesting film work on their process and how they do things. And man, these guys they're hauling ass. I thought I was going to be late to the party. They knocked out a good quarter of the property in 2 days.
So what I guess my question is, and being, kind of naive to the situation of what you're trying to do with this, like what is the purpose of doing this whole thinning thing, and what is your gain over this?
Gotcha. So the whole point of this is a regrowth timber pine stand that had been clear cut 22 years ago, I believe. And usually with your pine timber, as it comes up at about 15 years, you do a first thinning. and you knock it down from whatever grows and all the junk down to 220 trees an acre. This property, that hasn't happened. They skipped the thinning. They didn't do that. They just left it as timber and just wanted it purely for, recreational use, we'll say. And in that time, it became so overgrown and so nasty that even the deer didn't want to go in there. And when they did, they were small, because you couldn't walk through there on foot, let alone a deer with a nice set of rack running through there is just going to tie up in the vines. So 2 years ago, we set down a plan, had the forester come out, we walked the property, got it all set up to get this whole process going. And the way this company works is they'll literally do it to your need. And they're very wildlife and habitat friendly. They're very educated. So I said, look, here's how I want my food plots laid out. Here's the way I want the direction of the cutting laid out, so it creates natural lanes, but it doesn't just create an open vast. And it took them 2 years to get caught up on the stuff they already had. Like I said, they called me Wednesday, went down Friday, got to see them getting at it. He called me today. They're starting the clear cuts on the food plots. So we'll have 4 acres in 2 different plots getting put in, one on the northeast side, one on the southeast side or southwest side. And that's going to take 70 acres of pine and open up a couple of food plots. We're going to leave, there's a great big wetland creek through the center, just nasty, swampy, and we're going to leave it up. So you're going to have that natural thick corridor running between to start creating some funnels. Now, like we had talked about, and I know Martic had brought it up, is, once they're done, the goal is to get fire in there in the spring and burn that undergrowth, get everything cleared off, and let that natural regeneration, the native forage, the forbs, all of that to come back up. And if we can do this, burn every 2 years or so for a couple of years, the undergrowth and the habitat that it'll create is just going to make it a deer mecca, because that particular county right now is being basically wiped out with solar farms. We're going to be one of the biggest blocks of woods left that's not either developed or solar farm. And if we can give them, the food, water, shelter, all the habitat they need, everything's coming to us. And then we can start really getting a deer plan going.
So it's almost happening all in a perfect world, to be honest, because
it's been stupidly crazy good the way this has worked.
And so what my thing is, like, so with the thinning and now opening up all of that area, what is that usable resource to the deer? It's not enough. It's not bedding at that point if it's thinned out.
Not right now, but the first big goal to it is this soil hasn't seen sunlight in 22 years.
Wow.
Because these pine groves, when they regrow, there's no sunlight to the soil. So the only thing you get is straight briars and sweet gums and holly trees. Nasty shit that is of no nutritional value to deer. So by thinning this out and getting sun to the soil, and that soil has now been churned up, all the junk's ripped out, because they take everything, all the vines, all everything, it's all gone. They chip it up and use it as biomass, sell it to the power companies, and leaves us with pines and soil. And that helps all the native soil and all the grasses and things that are sitting there dormant that haven't been able to grow for years, gives them the opportunity to grow. So now what's regrowing in there is now all palatable to the deer, and it's going to be more attractive. And like I had to explain to a lot of people that, it's a 3-year plan. You don't cut it and have deer on it right away. You will have turkey instantly. Turkey's like, hey, open ground, fresh cut field, nice roost trees and room to move. I can see for miles. I'm happy. But with deer, you got to wait until that vegetation gets back up about head height.
Right.
And then you'll start seeing their corridors. But that gives us 2 years to establish our food plots, get our soil correct. So it's going to be a rough 2 years. And I take that on fully, knowing that year 3, those deer that we've been seeing in there, the nice 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, have had a couple of years to really grow and mature. They're on good forage. They've now got food sources. We get the pond dug in. Now they got water source. We're going to get the creek rediverted so it's all contained and it's actually a waterway. And 3 years from now, it'll be a full habitat that deer, in theory, if I put this plan together right, will want to stay on. They'll live on us and travel out to other fields. Whereas right now they just pass through us. So that's the goal.
Yeah. And I mean, like what you said, I mean, when you start to manage an area like that, I mean, I've gone through it and done it before. It's a frustrating battle. It's an uphill battle too, because you put in all this time and work and then you don't see a result in it. I mean, you start doing slash cutting and bedding and all this type of stuff and food, and you don't see you see a result. Like, okay, it's not that it's a barren sea of nothingness. I mean, you're gonna see deer. You're gonna have mature deer in there, of course. Like, it's not a thing, but it's not in the abundance of what it will be in 3 years. Right? I mean, it's
a patience game, and that's my hardest part right now, because we're cutting right now as we speak.
Right.
And my season opens next Saturday. And I know everything that I've been watching. I haven't seen them on camera since the day they showed up. And I know they won't be back there until, perhaps if they're chasing a hot doe through there.
Well, I'd agree to disagree, right? Because a lot of the times when you have areas that are clear cutted or cut in any way, shape, or form, those deer mill through them because of the tops of the trees are on the ground, the new growth that starts to grow there. So I think that you'll start to see deer and stuff in that area a little bit sooner than you think.
Well, in my opinion. And I know we'll see stuff in there, and it's actually a very, very valid point. Steve, the forester, actually sent me a picture today, and he was walking one of his drag lines, and there were 3 new scrapes opened up on it, and they just cut it yesterday. So those deer are in there, and they're hitting all those new stuff, and they will mill through there. The biggest thing is pre-cut, we knew what the deer did, where they wanted to travel, how they like to move. Now we just changed everything. We don't know what the deer are going to do. So it's going to be that I set up actually 2 stands while I was down Friday in observation spots way back off the edge of the soybeans, so I could look back in, and one on the far side of the property where I know they cross from North Carolina. And my first couple of days down there during the season are literally going to be, I'm going to sit here just to observe and try to figure out how the deer are going to use this right now with the way it is. And then try to make a move. It's like hunting public, just like we do in Ohio. Let's find the deer. Let's see what the deer are doing. Then we'll move on them. Yeah. So it could be hit or miss. It could be slam dunk. It could be a very, let's wait till rifle season and I take the 300 and shoot them at 400 yards. Yeah. We'll see.
I mean, that's the risk that you're willing to take, obviously, by doing this management, because the longevity of it is going to come.
You got to do it. It's got to happen.
Yeah, got to happen.
And they love to log in the fall.
Yep.
It's just the time of the year. They don't want to do it in the summer. Like, it's just when they want to do it.
Well, now you've gone through
on the trees.
I will tell you this, Steven. 2008, my farm got logged. Same thing. They were there October, November. It drove me nuts. That year, at the time, it was my biggest buck. I shot my biggest buck the day after Thanksgiving. I remember showing that rack to the logger. So they were on site logging when I shot that buck.
Nice.
So, like Trev said, it in your head, mentally it messes with you, but in the long run, it doesn't.
It's a mind fuck, but you never know what'll happen until you're there.
Exactly.
So that's why, regardless, I'll be there.
Right. So, and that's the thing. We did it at Caddy Cowboys, and we have film documentation of this whole entire thing as it unveiled. I mean, this was years ago, bro. I haven't lived with Caddy in 8 years, 10 years now. And when we had built that whole entire place, we had one buck, the unicorn buck. He literally showed up almost instantaneously after that work had done. Now, mind you, when we had done all the thinning and all the management in that entire place, we had done it and we had gone through the bedding ground. So now we have replaced the bedding ground, because that was functionally better for us to do so on the natural wind that occurred there all the time, right? So where the bedding was, we literally blew a road right through the bedding ground. Okay. Gone up to the top of the mountain and built the food plot at the top of the mountain. Now we have bedding all around us. So now it's just getting into it on the natural wind. We would now be able to get in, and there would be bedding on the back side of it, and then they're naturally getting in. And we started to see results that season. And one of the things that we had done, or I say we, but this is Matt's plan. I just happened to live it, right? Matt had gone through and done all of this. I just helped. I don't know what I helped do, but I was part of it. And
you were cheap labor.
All right, I was trying not to say it, but I guess it was.
I'll call it out.
I got to be part of it. And it was all his master plan. This was his property, and we worked as a team. You know, my brains and his smarts. And
says a lot for him.
Yeah. So the results happened very quickly. And one of the things that he had done when Joe the logger had come,
his name wasn't Steve.
No,
there was a lot of Steves going around here.
Steve's, man.
Steve.
When we had done this, he had put up and used, when he had clear cutted, and I don't know if you're going to do this, and it's just something that we had tried and it worked very well. When you want those deer to come into a certain spot of the food plot, you can kind of corral them to where you want to be.
Oh yeah.
We had blown up all of the wood that had been in that area, then clear cutted it. I say I had nothing to do with this. And they took and put all of the wood that was inside the food plot, and then they put it out to the outside, and they made openings on either corner in front of us.
So
that those deer, and they come, so their entrance and exit are all coming from one area. So when they come, and obviously, as we all know, as hunters and learning the wind, so they're going to check the wind as they come in, and then they're going to come in. So they could be behind you, but that they're going to enter from there every single time. And I can tell you right now, to this day, I could tell you every single spot that deer is going to come into the field and when it's going to come into the field. 100%. There's no questions asked.
Well,
it does the same thing.
The other upside behind that task and theory is when a buck comes to check a field, what does it usually do? It walks inside the timber with that wind quartering crossing against him. He can smell the field. If there's nothing interesting, he ain't coming in.
Mm-hmm. And just sit there.
But guess what? If he can't look into the field, and
he has to come into
catch that natural, he now has to put his head into the field at a minimum. You get a glimpse. If not, draw him in. So that's and yeah, we're using a very similar method. We're going to edge feather everything so they can't look into the field from the timber. It's going to be so thick and nasty around the edge of these fields, they have no choice but to come into the field.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things, and it works, and it manages it as it's supposed to be. I'm seeing and watching the process that you've gone through is actually really cool, because it's on a greater scale. Having the land that you have to be able to do such a thing, I'm very curious to see what it becomes. I think it's going to become something.
I'm at that point where I'm sitting in the chair, like, I know I planned this out theoretically. I know this is done correctly based on all the different strategies and all the input, but you always sit back and you're like, man, please don't fail. Please don't tell me I just run this property. Not that I believe it will, but there's always that little bit of doubt in your mind that should I have done something a little different?
Yeah.
And we won't know until, 3 years from now.
Yeah. So it could work. Well, Steve, you've been through something.
I've funded 3 properties that's been logged. I've been through a bunch, different properties. You know what I mean? One thing I got to say, Steve, is the picture that you sent, those loggers did a super clean job of cleaning up their mess.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you sent that picture, I was like, they did that today? And you're like, yeah. And I was like, every property I've ever been. Now, the difference is you're dealing with pine plantations and we deal with hardwood. So that's a little different there. But like any property I've been on where they log, they leave all the tops. They leave a mess of shit all over the place. Like it's a mess, but the Steve over down there with you, I mean, they looked like they did a super, super good job at picking up their mess as they moved through.
And that's one major reason we went with these guys is they're not just traditional loggers. They actually take, so all that trash, the scraps, the limbs, the tops, the leaves, the vines, they go through and they pick it all up and they chip it and they sell that as biofuel. So the power companies down here will turn around and burn that. So they get paid by pound for how much crap they take.
That's
so they
amazing.
They don't want to leave nothing, which
you could.
I mean, that's a win.
Right.
And it leaves me bare soil so I can do whatever I want.
That's a win for you and a win for them, I guess.
Yep. They get paid on it. We get paid by the pound on it, so that's going to turn around and just put more money back into the property for the seeding, for all the fertilizers, I know I got a shit ton of lime I got to get out, but it's going to pay for itself, which is the whole point of this.
And what type of food source are you going to put in your food plots? Like, what are you going to do, a clover type thing? I know that you've been very diligent with the stuff that you do at your house, but what is your plan as far as food in the food plots?
Yeah, with this being the one field being 3 acres is larger scale. So I'm going to say 30% of that food plot is actually going to be standing switchgrass.
Okay.
So we have open cover and edging with that. And then within there, through the summertime, we're going to have we'll call it a summer mix. It'll be very heavily based on clover. I may do some alfalfa lanes through there and kind of 1, 1, 1, 1, just strips through the summer just to give them that additional protein. Plus it'll be good for the turkeys. And then in the fall, I'll probably overcast. Well, I can't say fall, but in late May, June, I'll probably go through and do soybean over the top and drill it in. And then that way we have that late growth of soybean coming up in it. That'll get us into, greens into November. And then that gives us all winter with the pods. And then on the smaller food plot, it's going to be your more traditional food source. So, I'll cover crop it with clover, and it'll be primarily a clover hidey hole. And then I'll put in the winter greens and whatnot, like your big tine, your final stand, your buck brunch, things like that. It's just more of a transition between two big wooded areas heading to the food plot. So that's kind of the plan there.
Awesome. No, that's really cool. That's really cool. Steve, when you did yours, how has that benefited you in doing your property management to what it is today?
So I wasn't involved really at all. And when my property got done, so it was my mother-in-law. She was in this like EQIP program with the state. It's habitat improvement, but it's not designed for hunting or anything like that. And one of the big things that they were doing was rabbit habitat for the eastern cottontail. So, and the state actually will pay the landowner X amount of dollars per acre for putting in this rabbit habitat. So when they came up and did it, that just like you said with Caddy Cowboy, they took it was about a 10-acre bed. It was already a bedding area for deer. They clear cutted it.
Yep.
Not a single tree standing. Took all the trunks for firewood or lumber, left all the tops.
Yep.
And at the time I wasn't living on properties, you know what I mean? So we just go up and visit the in-laws. And I remember the first time I saw it, I almost cried. I was like, holy shit.
It's a scary sight.
Like a war zone.
You know, like, what?
Yeah, I felt like I got punched in the gut. I was like, I can't believe this. You know what I mean? I cannot believe it. But like Steve said, 2-3 years, I mean, the new growth just shoots up, so it ends up turning into a great bedding area. And I'd have to sit down and think about it, but almost majority of my bucks that I've killed there in the last 4 or 5 years, all in one way, shape, or form, is in relation to that, the edge of that 10 acres. So it definitely, you just have to be patient, because it definitely pays off in the long run, but sometimes you just don't see the full potential till year 2 or 3.
Right.
And the crazy thing about yours is it's like blocked in the middle. So the bedding is like in the middle of the property, more or less.
Well, yes and no. You got to remember, though, the driveway, the fields and the driveway and the houses are kind of in the middle.
Okay.
So it's 89 acres, which, that's a lot of acreage, like for our area. But because the houses are in the middle, it doesn't hunt like 89 acres. So, you only have a couple hundred yards to the north, a couple hundred yards to the south, a couple hundred yards to the west. Really have nothing to the east because that's where my house is. So the only good thing about it is with my bedding to my west, and my fields are kind of to the east, I get a lot of travel coming out of bedding. They'll either come out of bedding and work the north side, heading, east in the evening, back west in the morning, or they'll come around the south side, same thing, heading east in the evening, heading back west to bedding in the morning. So the way it sets up is because I have access from the middle, which is really sweet. It's very rare to be able to access your hunting property from the middle. I can, on a north wind, I can hunt the north side. My wind's blowing back to the middle. On the south wind, I can hunt the south side. My wind's blowing back to the middle. So it's very, very easy for me to play the wind just because I have.
That's cheating.
It's pretty.
I love it.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of properties, you're stuck with your access.
Right.
And I know it's different all over the country, but like, I'll just speak for us. Our prevailing wind is a west wind. Predominantly, it's always usually has some kind of west in it. East is very rare. You only really get it after like a front or something like that. So then summertime you got a lot of south winds, and fall and winter you have a lot of north winds, but you always got that little bit of west. So you get a lot of northwest, you get a lot of southwest. You know what I mean?
When you're getting east in the variant, there's a storm coming.
So let's say you get permission to hunt 50 acre piece of private, it's all timber, like whatever, if your access is from the west, going to be pretty hard for you, one way or the other, because 9 times out of 10 with that west wind, the wind's gonna be at your back for your access going in. You know what I mean? If you can get an east access, 9 times out of 10, you can access, whether it's a northwest or southwest, you'll be able to access that property with the wind in your face. You know what I mean? So like I said, I'm just fortunate. I'm lucky that I pretty much can access one way or the other with the wind
to
in my
get
face.
where you need to go. Yeah. Right. So how did that play part in the buck that you've shot this
I just got lucky.
Yeah, well, that happens.
I'm a cut bullshit on that one.
Hey, listen, I'd rather be lucky than good any day.
I'm 100% with you.
Opening day, I just, I got in my number one favorite tree stand and rolled the dice.
That's not what happened. You said a tree stand for him.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
The way you've been hammering and planning out and overthinking this damn deer since before Huntstock. And even when he started showing up while we were at Huntstock.
Yeah, he was blowing up the camera at Huntstock. Yeah.
You were sitting there, you were fantasizing and making ideas and strategizing as we're sitting there in the booth.
He was planning his mount before it was even before Huntstock. What are you talking about?
That's what I mean. This wasn't luck. He put in the work.
I think at Huntstock though, he had disappeared for a few weeks and he had just showed back up at Huntstock. That's why I was all giddy at Huntstock, because I was like, oh shit, he's back.
Yeah, because you were in panic mode when we got there. You're like, I ain't seen this deer in a while.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
where did it start? Because this deer, and I'm going to take it back, because this deer was not a normal deer that you've had on the property prior that you know of.
No, but I'm gonna have to go back. I believe it or not, I haven't gone back to look at old pictures from last year, but he's very unique, but he doesn't have any features that would be easy to identify last year, because his uniqueness for this year wasn't natural growth. And I didn't know that until after I killed him. I thought that was the natural growth. It was actually an injury that he had taken on the velvet. I remember that because
with
the ET finger,
we had talked about that. And you're like, I wonder why he did that. And until I seen the acorn when you killed it, I was
right.
Now it makes sense.
Yeah, because I couldn't see that at all in velvet. And he shed. We opened on Thursday. He shed Monday night. So I was like down to the wire. I was like, am I going to get a shot at this deer in full velvet? And the second I said it out loud, I think I was on the phone with Trev and Brockett, and I said, listen, I don't want to jinx this, but what if I kill this deer in velvet? What do I have to do? Like, I don't want to have to call, make the phone calls, to do it right then. So, but, so anyways, he showed up early summer. I want to say May, on a mineral site, at a mineral stump going. And I had a freaking blast with that thing this year because in the past, I'll run a mineral site with a regular cell camera. This year a regular non-cell camera. This year I had a cell camera on it. And what was cool about that was with a non-cell camera in the past, I'll just put the camera on there, set it, forget it, and leave it. I'll check the card once a month, every 6 weeks or whatever. So when you start rifling through the pictures, you kind of skip through the older pictures because they're barely showing any growth or whatever. And you really focus in on like the most recent intel because that's when the deer is the biggest. Well, with the cell cam, I was able to like every time he would come in, whether it every day or every other day or whatever, I would get to see him day by day, grow by grow. So it's like, oh look, he's starting. Was that a little 2 coming in? He's got a little G2
invested in him.
Come on, let me get a little 3 poking in. You know what I mean? Like, come on, So it was really cool to just watch him develop throughout the summer. But the problem with minerals, anybody that's ever run minerals knows that, right? Everybody fears the fall shift,
Yep.
Whether you got minerals or not. You got the deer you have in the summer, you're always wondering, are they going to stick around or are they going to vanish? Some are going to go, some are going to leave, some are going to come. You just don't know what's going to happen. And the problem with minerals is it's almost like a light switch. The draw on that mineral just shuts off overnight and they don't care about it at all.
Yep.
So I'm okay with that because I set my farm up where I know where I can kill deer regardless. So what I do is I run the minerals just for inventory. It's right around the time that the draw for the minerals ends, I'll move my cameras and I'll start putting them in kill spots, a lot of mock scrapes and stuff like that. And it's basically like, let them disperse and then run them down later. I'll pick them up somewhere else and I'll figure out, basically the stage is already set where I'm going to kill them once they disperse. So I want to say he was pretty regular up until last couple of days of August, first couple of days of September, and then nothing. He was out. But so I'd taken a walk. Just I've, like we talked before, my property's been logged, so I have some logging roads around the property, and I took a walk. I'm probably like 120 yards off of that edge of bedding where I knew he was living. And at the end of the logging road, there was a pretty well worn deer trail in the direction he was heading when he was leaving bedding. So because I had him pretty dialed in, every time he would come out of bedding, he was heading south, and then I'd catch him later that night or early the next morning, heading north back into bedding. So I walked that logging road about 120 yards south of bedding, and I cut a pretty well-worn deer trail, and a scrape had opened up. So without moving a camera or doing anything like that, I just assumed he's coming through here. The scrape's open up. He's going to be the one that opened up that scrape because there's really no buck using that side of the property because they had already dispersed. So I knew I had to move a stand over there. Put the stand up just off that scrape, pretty much where the logging road terminates, and goes in like kind of back into like some timber. So hung the stand. My wife helped me hang it. That was a project because bless her heart, she loves it. She helps me out so much. But you know how frustrating it is when you're cutting shooting lanes and you're up in the tree stand and you're telling the other person, no, the next branch,
the next limb.
No, the next one. Yes. No, so I had told her, and
then you're with your wife and she starts to give you an attitude. No.
Ooh, let me tell you something. The other thing too, I forget what she had to do. She was on a time crunch or something. She had to go to like a baby shower or something. She's like, well, I got a half an hour. I'll help you. I was like, oh, half an hour is plenty of time, right? Yeah, right. So we get the stand hung. She's got the pole saw, and I told her, I said, listen, we go in here, let's kind of be quiet because this buck's bedding about 100 yards away, so let's be quiet. We get in there. Next thing you know, I'm like, no, the other one, the one to the left. No,
my left, not your left.
No, she's like, stay up in the stand. I'm like, all right, cool. So whatever. We get it all trimmed out. Everything worked. I'm like, I'm never going to see this deer again.
Sarah.
I basically just hung the stand for nothing. You know what I mean? And I think I did catch him that night. So I was like, oh, good. All right. I didn't bugger it up too much because he did hit that camera that night. So I was like, all right, cool. So stage was set for the most part, but I also knew I was pretty much straight south of the bedding. And early season, we get a lot of south winds. So I'm like, I cannot hunt this on the south wind. I'm going to have to wait for a north wind. So what I did was we hung another stand probably about 150 yards to the east on like a little outside corner. And the reason why I did that was basically like an observation set. It was completely foolproof. Like I could sit that on a northwest wind every single day. I'm never going to get busted coming in. I'm never going to get busted coming out, and nothing's ever going to be able to win me. But I knew it was like very, very low % chance that I might see him, but I would not get a shot there. But so the plan coming in open today was southwest wind. I'm just going to sit the observation stand every night. And then the first time I get a northwest wind, I'll move in for the kill. So I got the northwest wind open tonight. So it's like, it's game time. Like I'm going in, so, which is very rare for me. I've never claimed to be an early season killer. I'm super, super passive hunter in the early season. And, you listen to a lot of these guys that are big killers, Jake Bush and all that. They're aggressive. They, when it's time for the kill, they go in. So I'm like, you got to go for it, right? Like, what am I going to do? Mess it up? Like, you just got to go for it. So
you can't kill him sitting
right
in the background,
and that's always been my problem, is just kind of tiptoeing around, and just
right.
It's not time. So I'm like, everything's set up perfect. The wind's right. The stand's in. I'm happy where the stand is. Like the sign's right there. There's a scrape right there. There's fresh tracks there every night, and he's hitting the camera heading that direction every night. So I got out of work early that night. Not even that early, but I left work about an hour early, flew home, changed my clothes, took one practice shot in the backyard. I was dead on at 20, get in my stand, and I'm sitting there for a little while. I think you were on stand.
It's open at night.
It's open at night. So you're texting all your boys, like, what's going on, trying to stay updated.
And we had a swirling wind that day.
I'm getting freaking chowed by mosquitoes. I didn't bring the thermocell.
I was in the swamp and I didn't.
No bug spray, because I know a lot of people don't like using bug spray when they're deer hunting, but
if you're playing the wind, you're playing the wind.
Exactly. So the thought crossed my mind about bugs, but it was breezy that night, and it was a little chilly. So I'm like, there ain't gonna be no bugs, dude.
And it was swirling wind, so they couldn't land.
Freaking pounded with mosquitoes, and I'm texting everybody. Nobody's got mosquitoes but me. So, excuse me, it gets to a point where I'm like sitting in the stand with my hood up and my face down and my hands in my pockets, just hiding from mosquitoes. And I looked up and I just see a rat coming, and I'm like, it has to be ET. Like I said, he's the only buck really using that section of the property. So stood up, grabbed my bow. He's getting ready. I mean, he freaking read the script. He's stepping out at the logging road at like 30 yards. Grab the bow, turn the tacticam on, and I just hear so
that piece of
garbage,
bro.
If you've ever run a tacticam, when you turn it on, it vibrates twice, and you can feel it, and it knows it's recording.
I've had the world's worst luck with them stupid things, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
And
I finally got the dove shot. That was the only shot I've ever got on that damn camera.
Dude, I can't. I just, like, when we had killed the turkey, we had the same problem, man. It didn't come. And then we killed the turkey together.
Well, no. Yeah. Well, your turkey, it didn't work. It worked for both of my turkeys, but I had it running for your double, and it didn't catch that. It caught everything until the kill, and then it
filled out or tweaked. And nothing against Tacticam. I mean, they're great, but like in the moment, that's a tough piece of equipment to be able to get to work. In my opinion,
you got to rely on it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
And I'm not down talking them, because some people have the greatest luck in them.
It very well could be operator error. I'm not going to rule that out by any means.
I mean, look at the common denominator in this.
Yeah.
That's this guy. So like, let's be honest. I mean, there's nobody more.
I turned it on in the backyard for my little practice shot, and it got that.
Right.
So anyway, so if you have a Tacticam, you turn it on, it vibrates twice, you know it's on. And then I think it's like is it 12 minutes or something like that? It starts a new clip. And when it does that, it'll vibrate just to let you know, like, it's starting a new clip.
You asked the wrong guy that, bro. I don't use tag.
I don't think I've ran one for 12 minutes.
So, so anyway, so here's ET standing at like 25 yards, not quite to the shooting lane yet. Turn the tactic cam on, and it just starts vibrating, and it won't stop vibrating. I'm like, shit. I'm like, well, I ain't screwing with it now. So I got the bow in the low ready position, just waiting for that chance to draw. And all I can feel is
holding the vibrator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like that shit's plugged in the wall
Yeah.
like a vacuum.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of just sitting there. He's kind of like quartering to me. And at this time, like
You got the rabbit strapped to the front of your bow.
it's
Exactly.
It's actually funny you say that. So I wanted to name ET Rabbit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was the original.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right, yes.
And Cody was the one that said ET, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. So if you haven't seen,
I still like rabbit though.
yeah, pure romance.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen the pictures yet, his right G3, probably about, what is it, 2-3 inches up?
Yeah.
About 3 inches up. He broke it in velvet, and it fell forward, but didn't fall off, and it stayed there, and then it continued to grow. So the G3 actually like almost parallels the main beam. It's really cool. So when he was in velvet, it actually looked like ET's finger.
Yeah.
So that's where he got his name.
But he
So-
was the rabbit, pure romance, aka
Hey.
the tickler. I mean,
Yes.
pretty sexy. So I almost named him Jake Bennett.
yeah.
I don't know if it was at that level.
That's a whole new. Listen, the take.
He would have needed an extra line.
I'll tell you this. And with them Merce hands, bro, soft Merce hands. So I had said, texting Jake, right? As you guys all know, Jake is a character, right? Jake is a personality and a persona of a man that most want to be, right? I mean, he's just that guy. And the thing that scares me about Jake is when you text him about something, bro, you don't know what kind of response you're going to get back.
I don't even know if I want to repeat what he texted me last
Well,
night.
that's the thing is you can't repeat what he texts you. And I love the man to death. Like we've become good friends since we've left Huntstock, but he's something else, bro. And it will not be the last time you hear Jake. And if you guys are listening to this and haven't listened to Jake's podcast or any of the ones, honestly, they're worth the listen. But so anyways, going back to your source,
Jake's my spirit animal.
Yeah. He's an animal. There's no question about that. So going back, so ET's at 25 yards.
Yeah. So he's at 25 yards. Now this is the first time I'm really getting a good look at him because when he shed Monday night, I don't remember the date, a couple days, open day was Thursday, Monday night he shed. And you know how it is when a deer sheds, like he obviously loses a lot of all factor, you know what I mean? Because they look a lot bigger in velvet.
Well, we had talked about that, right? So like there was a lot of conversation about him and how big he was and what,
right?
Not that, and you know,
yeah. Well, let me say before you say anything, let me say this: I don't focus on score at all.
Score doesn't mean anything to any of us.
Exactly. So, being that we were doing bow hunter league this year, it kind of matters a little bit. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you're gonna have to score it one way or the other. So, score kind of entered the conversation a little bit more than normal.
Well, it wasn't even that, but it was at the point of, you know, the maturity of the animal, and the class of the animal,
right? And uniqueness is a factor to me,
of course. So coming down to brass tacks on it, we had talked about how big the deer was, and we had tossed back and forth where he would place, right? In a score wise, and no more than, hey, dude, that's going to be your second Pope and Young deer, is my opinion, right? And yours is no, he's smaller than that. And then he had shed.
Yeah.
And he was in a different realm.
There was, after he shed, and you know, because like I said, I wasn't getting great pictures of him by the time he shed because he wasn't on minerals anymore. So I wasn't getting pictures. I was just getting like hammered pictures of him just standing there. It was just coming out of bedding or going back into bedding. So like one day I'd get a picture with his head up and I'm like, damn, he looks pretty good. And then there's another day with his head down and I'm like, he looks like a little dinky basket rack. You know what I mean? So when I went in to hunt him that night, I was still undecided if I was actually going to shoot him. And it was basically like, I'm just going to wait till I see him in person and I'll make up my mind, you know, at the time. So when he stepped out, I was like, Oh yeah, shooter buck. Like
Yeah,
he looks
he's
good.
bigger
He looks like the good pictures, not the bad pictures.
Yeah,
You know what I
he's
mean?
bigger than what you thought.
And at one point, I'll never forget it. He's standing there. I'm just kind of waiting for him to like work his way down this logging road, and he stopped. Kind of quarter and two, but mostly broadside. And he kind of reached back. And I don't remember if he was licking his back or if he actually scratched his back with one of his main beams. And the way that, his head was just turned in my direction, it just looked like so good. And so I was like, oh yeah, man, this is really sweet,
And that score doesn't mean anything. And there was some controversy about the whole situation. Steven doesn't even know it because he's not on those forums.
Yeah. Well,
there's controversy.
First of all, we didn't talk about this before, but I was gonna say it tonight what the actual score was, but we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do something different. So I'm just gonna go on with the story. Just don't say
yeah. But there's a lot of controversy. Like somebody says, "What's the gross score of the deer?" And so Steve had rebutted, like, it doesn't mean anything. It's about the memories that are made on this deer. Like we don't care how big the deer is, or you don't care, and I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. And then I had chimed in and I said, obviously, you guys are hunting for all the wrong reasons if you're worried about what the score is.
Right.
It's not a dick swinging contest. And dude, we're in the first week of the season, bro.
Well, the thing that pissed me off the most is like, especially locally, there's a handful of Connecticut pages. You have like Connecticut Hunter, Connecticut Whitetail, Connecticut Bow Hunter Exclusive. You got Tropper's page, whatever the hell that is, Compound, whatever.
That's because he didn't fit in on none of the other pages, so he decided.
Yeah, I wanted to make his own to self promote and all that shit. So whatever. So I post a picture of my deer in. Actually, they don't even know if I got them yet. I didn't finish the story.
Yeah, but that's okay. You get. Everybody knows you shot the deer.
So anyways, I posted it on my personal page for family and friends. Posted to the Outdoor Drive because that's my main page, and Bow Hunting League because we're in the Bow Hunting League. And then I decided to put it on Connecticut Bow Hunter Exclusive. And the reason why is because, in my opinion, that's the tightest run ship. Like, it's more serious bow hunters.
Chuck does very well.
Chuck does a good job. I talked to Chuck today about it. Not a lot of riffraff in there, and I figured it was safe. And then, like Trev had said, the question came up, what do you gross? And I just answered back, I don't know. I don't chase numbers. It is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and basically got called out for, bullshit. What he scores, da da da. And that's when Trev had, kind of came in and backed me up on that. I forget exactly what you said, but
I just said you're just hunting for all the wrong reasons.
But the long story short is I couldn't believe how many people, there was more people worried about what my deer scored than I was worried. Like, I don't even care. Why do you care so much what my deer scores?
It's just not net. I don't know, whatever. So anyway, so ET's at 25 yards.
Yeah, no, he ends up stepping out at 20. And I kind of forgot this earlier in the story, but when I had gotten on stand, like when you set up a stand, you cut all your shooting lanes, you kind of know in your head, like, this is my best shooting lane. Like, you envision, like, this is where it's going to go down. Let me cut one here just in case. Let me cut one here just in case, whatever. So, like, my main shooting lane to the logging road over in the direction where that scrape was, there was one branch, and standing up, it's low. It's like, it's not non-factor or whatever. But I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, when I draw, it's not in my line of sight, but your arrow rest is lower than your sight. You know what I mean? Because it's like 5 feet away. So when I noticed it was bothering me a lot. So I had drawn the bow and stand aimed in that direction about where I thought the logging road was, or where he would be on the logging road if he came that way. And I kind of like stepped out of the bow and peeked, and I was like eyeballing the arrow. Like, I think it's going to clear. It should clear, right? It's going to clear. Like, just convinced myself it was going to clear, but it was kind of in the back of my head. So where does ET step out? Right on the logging road, right where the branch is. So I come to full draw at 20 yards. He's right there. He turns sideways. Everything felt good. The shot felt good. I don't feel like it didn't feel like a bad shot. And typically, if I make a poor shot just from, shooting in the backyard, I tend to miss low and to the right. That's my miss usually, maybe 3 inches right, 3 inches low. Dude, I hit him high, like high. Like, first thing I said when I didn't see the arrow in flight or go through him.
It was high and back.
Yeah, but the back didn't bother me too
No.
much. Like I was okay with the back. The exit was a little back, but I didn't see the arrow in flight. Didn't see the arrow, penetrate. But before he could kind of like get out of there, I could see the mark where I hit. And like first, I literally said out loud, like, "Shit, that was high." Didn't like that at all. So he kind of took off in the direction he was facing, kind of button hooked around, and headed back the way he came back for bedding. So from where I am in the tree, the canopy is pretty thick. So I could only see him for maybe 50, 60 yards. And then I would just see like flashes of white, picking up like a tail here or there. And then he disappears and then I hear a crash. So I'm like crash, but everything about it was bad. Shot looked bad. The way he took off looked bad. His tail was up, which is usually bad. Everything's bad. But I heard a crash. So it's like, all right, let me back out of here. Called Trev, told him what was going on. Called our other buddy Nick, Nick hasn't even been hunting not even a full year yet.
No.
And we had talked. He wanted to, try to be a part of a successful hunt as far as like the recovery and the field dressing and all that stuff. So he's right down the road. So I told him if something goes down, I'll give you a call. So I called Nick, got down, checked my arrow. Not super impressive. Wasn't terrible, but wasn't great either. Which didn't surprise me because I knew I hit him high. Stuck the arrow on the ground at impact and backed out, went back to my house and waited for Nick and Trev. So, which is probably the worst hour of your life, just
it's a horrible feeling, isn't it?
You always you're going to second guess it.
This will be the benefit of you starting to film hunts. I can promise you right now that is a benefit to filming hunts.
Right. Yeah.
And we've been
through
this.
So,
oh my God. Yeah.
So I'm back at the house now and Nick's not even there yet. And I'm looking at my Glendale buck in the backyard. I'm trying to, cause you black out. You remember, but then you start wondering, like,
you start
is my memory right? Am I changing my memory? Like, was it really that bad? But I heard a crash. Crash is good, but like whatever. So I'm like, all right, cool. So it was by the time Trev got there, it was an hour and a half since I.
The thing about all that though, when you're in that hour, like you talk to everybody, like you call your friends, you call your relatives, and they're asking you the most nonsense questions to you in your mind, right? But the ones that make sense to them, right? Like, and this happens, and it's not just you. Yeah. I'm just saying it's in situational, right? Like where if I shoot a deer and I'm like, I'm unsure of it, like say, like the funk buck, like I shot that deer and he was quartering 2.
Yeah.
And I smashed him.
Yeah.
Right. But in that point, when that's a marginal shot to me.
Yeah.
So I leave and I come home and then my dad's here. So, and of course your dad is, if you were raised with a father that hunts with you, he now has taught you everything that you need to know. Like, remember where the rock is and remember where this tree is.
Right,
so now my dad's asking me all the questions. Well, how was he standing? What was he doing? I go, I don't know. He was scratching his balls, dude. I don't know. Like now you're getting frustrated, right? So like you start to think about it. So that breaks in your mind. Now you're overthinking everything. So like when like you talk to me and I'm like, we had talked about the rangefinder and I'm asking you questions and you're like, I don't even want to talk about the rangefinder right now.
Right.
Because you're getting frustrated, right? I mean, like this is just how this goes.
Well,
so
even like I was texting with Higgins because I couldn't call him because him and Colt were in the blind.
Right.
So I'm texting with Higgins and he's like, well, how high? And I'm like, high. And he's like, well, how high? High enough for me to say hi. I don't know. It wasn't over his back. Wasn't over his back, and I didn't spine him, but I didn't hit him good. So you can imagine where, but you know what I mean. So
is it Cheech and Chong high? Is it Tupac high? Like what kind of high are we talking here?
Yeah. So, but it wasn't like I said, it was high, but it wasn't like So anyway, so it's about an hour and a half goes by. We're there. We go over there. We get in there. I knew where I'd seen him last, and I knew where I thought I heard a crash. But I said, let's do this the right way. We're going to start at the beginning, at moment of impact where the arrow is, and let's track it. So we get on blood, and it's not good, which is not surprising because anytime you hit a deer high, you're not going to get a lot of blood. If they're internally bleeding, the chest cavity has to fill up with blood, and the only blood you're really going to get is just that little bit of residual blood that's kind of coming off the hair like every time they bound. You know what I mean? So,
and I think one of the things that we had done, and I want to make a point of this because this is a very important point, honestly.
Huge.
When you're tracking a deer, obviously, you know, one of the things when Steven had called me and told me, I said, okay, I'm on my way. A, because he thought it was a marginal shot. B, because I said I wanted to be there. I always want to be on anybody's and everybody's
actually
kill.
And Trev takes the best pictures too. That's why I wanted him there.
But the thing is, like, I personally, it's a camaraderie thing for me, right? I want to be on everybody's fucking recovery. That's just who I am. So one of the bonus things and the point that I want to make is when you are tracking and you have somebody else with you, the person who shoots is in an emotional state that can make a lot of mistakes quickly and ruin the tracking job. So it's very important, in my opinion, in all the tracking that I've done, and it's a lot, is to put the person who's not emotionally attached to that animal in the lead.
Right.
And following that blood trail, because they're not in an emotional state to rush or make false assumptions of what had happened.
Yeah, basically
you're reading.
I let Trev set the pace. So Trev
and read the book.
Right. And we let Nick hold last blood. Yeah. So I was kind of just hanging out in the middle, you know, which worked out perfect.
It's important because that person can now read the book, because like Steve, for example, and it worked out very well in the situation that had happened because he had heard it crash. But
I think
you heard it crash. Right. So in that point where you're like, Steve had heard it crash, thought he knew where it had went. So that person is now projecting to go to that area where they had saw or heard it, but it might be the wrong area, when somebody who's not emotionally attached to this can read the sign where the sign needs to be read and follow it in the sign and the possible.
I have a big saying that I actually learned in bear camp as a kid: sign don't lie.
Yeah.
The sign don't lie. You know what I mean? The sign.
Nope.
So, anyways, this all kind of went out the window eventually because
of course.
So we get probably about half of the blood trail.
And we were having trouble at that point trying to find the blood. Well, that was the other thing, because it's so high, and like ours in Ohio is that it had rubbed on something and there was a ton of blood. So now you know that you've hit.
Yeah,
it's a hit.
Yeah.
But it's just not filling up. It's just patching on the blood, on the coat.
And we were like getting right on that edge of where the property had been logged and hadn't been logged. So it was like pretty open, old, mature hardwoods. There was like really nothing but leaves and big mature trees. So I said, Trev, why don't you just continue on blood? Keep looking for blood. Nick, you stay on blood. I'm going to circle out to the right, away from where the blood trail should be, so I don't walk anything. Let me just take a peek over here where I think he was last, where I thought I heard the crash. And worst comes to worst, I'll just pick up the blood trail and we'll skip like 50 yards of this whole thing, you know? So
I don't even think you made it 50 yards and picked up blood.
Yeah. So I get up there and I was like, all right, cool. So this is another good advice. I think this is a good tip to do. So I yell back to Trev and Nick. I said, hey, I got blood here. So they're like, blood? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, all right, we'll be right there. So Nick and Trev come up the hill and Trev's like, what's up? Where's the blood? And I shine my flashlight and ET's laying there at like 20 yards. He's like, you said you had blood, but you know, it's a lot more fun that way because, you know, if you yell to your buddies through the woods and you're like, hey, I found him. He's right here. I found him. Everybody like, you know, gets all excited and everyone comes running over and whatever. But if you kind of trick them into like you just found blood, you get them to you before they get excited.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. So the excitement's there.
Yeah. And right. More intimate.
Everybody does that. Steve did it to me.
I did it to Trev.
We do it in bear camp. Like they did it in bear camp. They'll like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's just, or any type of hunting, they do the same thing. Like, hey, I found blood over here. Like I've heard a bunch of stories of kids. They'll be like, I found something here. And then the kid walks over it trying to get to where they are. And the deer, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so cool.
I'll tell you another really good trick and tip to file in the back of your brain. If you ever get in a situation where you say you shoot a good buck or you know, a really big buck and you call your buddies, if you can, tell them it's a doe. Just tell them I shot a doe. Can you help me find it? Because it goes back to that pace and that overexcitement and doing dumb shit, because you're going to track it like it's a doe. Nobody gets excited. Nobody does anything stupid. Then you get there and it's a freaking giant. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't tell me it was a big buck. Well, would you act different if it was a big buck? Would you attract it any different?
No, I want you to track with your utmost.
Yeah.
Your most attention.
Right.
There's a couple of things that definitely work. And one of the things that you had done, and I don't know, we're releasing a lot of tips and tricks here, but like putting that arrow right at first blood.
Yeah. Never pick up your arrow, Henry.
Yeah, you don't ever pick up your. Well, that was because he was trying to hide things.
No,
that's the difference. A lot of people do that, right? Like, especially guides. You hear a lot of stories about guides. Like, there was one in camp, actually, and it's just fresh in my mind. That's why I keep referring back to it. But one of the guys, the guide comes, and he's there, and he comes in a stand with the guy, and he's like, "Okay, which way to go?" He's like, "It went left, and it went up over there." He's like, "Did you hear any crashing?" "No, I didn't hear nothing, but it went up and to the left, right?" And the guide goes up in the left and he's starting to track. He's like, "There's no blood. There's no nothing." He comes back and he goes to the right and it's fucking 10 feet away. And the guy, but he's like, "What the fuck?" So when he had gone to the left, he had found boot tracks. So he yells back. He goes, "Did you come and look?" "No." Why is there boot tracks? "Because I just was looking." Like, what do you mean? Like, what the fuck? Like, don't lie about the situation because you're just going to screw yourself.
Well, every little detail can matter.
Yeah.
So if you start lying about stuff on the blood trail, the sign don't lie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The sign don't lie. So the more honest you can be and to the best of your ability of your memory and stuff like that, it could be the difference between recovering the animal. Not.
This will be my last tip. And
we're gonna spill a bunch
tip
of
and trips. But the thing is, to be honest with you, if I could have one thing in my backpack when it comes to tracking, one thing only,
nailed it.
And Steve can attest to this, is a fucking glow stick, bro. That will make your tracking job. One or two of them could make that tracking so much better, because you can either leave it at first blood, which that's what I do. I don't touch the area. I don't do nothing. The first thing I do, I zip my backpack, I crack a glow stick, and I leave the glow stick. So now if we go
at first blood,
done. Now I have one at first blood. If we run into any sort of problem, now I have another glow stick, and I crack that
at last blood.
So then now you have the track from first blood to last blood, and you can always return it. Ask Steven. You can see that thing from 10 miles away.
Yep. You hang it, eye level, and you can see it through the woods, and you walk right to where, okay, that's where we were last. And now you get there and you walk in and be like, "Oh, we found the next one. Now bring the glow stick up."
Go to it. Now you're always looking at it, especially on a tough tracking job. It's just always a beneficial tool, because now you're highlighting the things that are going on and being able to visually see. Because how many times, if there's just two of you and you're trying to find trickles of blood, and you don't have a nick to be at last blood.
I've always used pink surveyor's tape.
Yeah, but you can't see surveyor's tape from where you're at.
Right.
And so that's where the glow stick comes into, and you just use it to your advantage to wherever you need to go. Before I did that, I had Luminox.
Yeah.
So I would just carry my arrow and just put Luminox where it is. But
the reason why I like the pink surveyor's tape is because you can literally put a piece at every single drop of blood, and you can kind of see it unfold. And it's kind of funny because, like, property I grew up hunting with my dad, that shit sticks around for a while if you don't go back and pick it up. And like on public, you don't want to leave that out at all. You know what I mean? But on private, there's been a couple of times where we've left some blood trails up. You know what I mean? And it's funny because I'll shoot a deer and I'll go to recover them, and it's so funny, like how many times the deer almost use the same exact. Like I'm going to recover my deer right next to some orange ribbon.
It's funny that you say that, because orange ribbon in the North Woods is used a ton. They use it for everything. They use it for tracking.
I like
because
pink.
It's so thin.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. Yeah. So they use it for everything. So they use it for surveying cuts. They use it for shed hunting. So what they'll do is they'll use it for shed hunting, like the old timers that don't run GPSs. They'll orange taper their way in, and so that they can get back out. They use it for moose tracking. When they shoot a moose, they track with the orange tape. When they bear hunt, they use that at night. They also orange track. So you go in the woods, bro, and you don't, and I didn't learn this until recently. When I would go up and shed hunt, I would take all of them with me because a lot of those guys, they mark like the trails, they mark the areas where they are. And so like you think that those guys that are using that surveyor's tape, that they've now been shed hunting there that year and they're working their way through the cut. So that's in my mind what I'm doing. So I take every single one that I find so that they can't figure out where they were. But then in reality, they're using that stuff for everything. Everybody uses it up there.
You could be on a blood trail from last fall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you think that you're exactly. So it's just crazy. That's one of the things with the surveyor tape. Like you literally walk up there, dude, and it literally looks like a homeless shelter of teepees from orange surveyor's tape throughout the woods. It's everywhere. You're like, what the fuck? They got this stuff everywhere. But it definitely, no, the surveyor's tape definitely works. I mean, that's what they use up there because it's so thick in the pines. You couldn't, it's like being the Phragmites down in the eastern shore. Like you don't know which way is out. Like every tree's the same, every hill's the same, everything is all the same. So they use it to get their way out.
So carry the marking tape and a couple of chem lights.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you can mark your first blood, your last blood, but you can mark the blood along the way.
Yeah, exactly. Those chem lights or glow sticks are used for so much. I didn't realize that survival, like military survival, they use them a ton.
We use them.
I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Those things, you live in.
Any colored better than the other?
I like green. I think you can see it from
green
a lot
is
further.
your most visual. Blue is dimmer. Red, you'll only see up close. Orange, don't waste your time with because
I'm gonna grab a couple, even if I don't use them. Like you never know, just throw them in the truck just to have.
It's a good tool to have, man. There's
say you're lost in the woods, tie a piece of string to it, swing it over your head. That thing will glow for miles into the air. Search and rescue can see you from a long damn ways away.
So that's the military. So there was a gentleman at the Springfield show here that had come up to me with I wish I had it, and I was looking around. I thought maybe it was in the studio somewhere, but he has one. He made. I think I had shown you, Steven. It's a holder, and it has it's a green holder, and it has the glow stick on the outside, and then on the inside of it holds paracord. And it has a paracord cutter on the outside, and it's not all that small, man. I mean, not all that big. It's maybe the size of like a Coke can.
Yeah.
And it holds a whole entire spool of 51 paracord. 150 paracord. And it's got the thing on the outside, and you literally can tie it to it and swing it around, or it has the paracord cutter. It's actually a really cool product. I like it a lot. I really do. The more and more I mess with it, I think it's a really cool product and what he did. And that's a military rebuild, right?
We used to live and die by those little setups. You know, you would mark your trails with UV chem lights that you can only see under night vision. We would mark landing zones for helicopters with them. You would mark friend and foe with different colored chem light. Hey, the bad guys are there. Let's throw a red one into them and put a blue one with us. So anyone knows, shoot to the red.
Right.
You can use chem lights in so many different ways because they're visible. You see them. There's no hiding them.
Yeah. It's a great, I think it's a great tool, man. And one of the things that you definitely want to have in your backpack.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I don't know about you, but I'll throw this out there too. If anybody's, put in some of them, I always, from now to the rest of the deer season, I keep a separate pack in my truck all the time. And it's basically a tracking pack. You know, I'll throw an extra knife in there, some pink ribbon. I'm going to put some glow sticks in there now. Extra flashlight, extra batteries, headlamp, and all that shit, because you never know when you're going to get a phone call. You know what I mean? Like, I may go to work. You know what I mean? I may be leaving work and Trev calls me, shot a deer. Well, I don't have time to go home or whatever, you know, because I don't bring my hunting stuff to work every single day. So I have this pack in my truck ready to go at all the time, because you never know when you're going to get a phone call from a buddy to go help out. And I'm ready to track. One of the cool things too, that one of the things that works very well in questionable blood, hydrogen peroxide. Never done it. Yep. I've heard about it. Hydrogen peroxide is one of those tips and tricks, that an old school tip and trick, because if you have a questionable, the other thing too, what it does is
If you have a questionable, like if it's blood, you literally just squirt it and it bubbles, right? So you can definitely tell it. The other thing is if you could obviously do it in a small, a little tiny like sanitizer bottle or whatever with a spray top on it, like the little ones, like a mouthwash type spritzer, and literally spray the ground and then see it with a flashlight from quite a ways away.
Yep.
And then check that blood. It's a great tool to kind of bring your eye to it, and see stuff that you didn't see before. There's a ton of those things, man, that make you successful, and it's just a time thing where like the more and more that you track, the more and more you understand where what those deer do, how they react, and how they go about doing things. Like when you see a deer and it's charging up a giant hill, I'd hate to say it to you, man, but that's not a good thing. They're not going to run uphill. They're running unless it's the only option, I guess.
Yeah,
but
it's
never
not often
a good hit. No.
Path of least resistance.
Path of least the only argument I would say to that, and again, it's rare. They do like to run for cover. So
yes.
Well,
if there's cover, cover up the hill or on the side of the hill, you might see them try to get up that hill.
Correct. But they're going to pump a lot more as they go up the hill because they're working 3 times more.
The one that drives me nuts the most is he's going to head for water.
I knew you were going to say that.
And it kind of sounds good. It could be right, but I kind of call bullshit. And the reason why I say that is, or the same thing was going to go downhill. A lot of times, at the bottom of the hill, there's water.
There's water.
And around water, there's usually cover.
Right.
So what's he heading for? Is he heading for the cover? Is he heading for the water? Or is he running downhill? He's kind of doing
he's doing trying to find something safe.
Right.
Well, in all honesty, this is his home. That's his living room.
Yeah.
So he knows where to go.
He's going to where he's safe.
If you're in the middle of a hardwood flat, right? Just open, mature timber oaks, and you shoot him, he's probably going to run downhill because at the bottom of the hill, there's a swamp,
right?
And it's thick and there's water. You know what I mean?
That's where they hide.
It's not always just, if you know where there's a little water hole, he's not just going to run towards a freaking puddle in the middle of the woods because he needs water. He's not, he's got a hole. He's leaking out both sides of his ribs. He's not going to say, "Oh, I need a drink." Right. He's just trying to get the hell out of there and away from whatever, bit him basically.
The other thing too, and when they get into those swamps, they'll roll around in the swamp bottom and get the mud to plug it up. I mean, that's a huge thing. And then when you start to get water into the variables of tracking, that's where things get weird because now it's diluted, and that's where the hydrogen peroxide comes in. That blood is now diluted.
Yep.
So you're not seeing it as well.
Hydrogen peroxide will still bubble the blood on the surface.
Correct.
Which that's going to be very important when you go down Sitka hunting.
Yeah.
Because everything
I didn't realize that.
If it's not in the frag grass, it's in water.
Yeah. So that's a crazy thing. But those are just little tips and tricks. I think as the season progresses and there's more of those tips and tricks, I think we should share them.
The after the shot is so freaking important. You know what I mean? I think
that's where the work begins.
It looks overlooked so much, but like doing it right and doing it wrong could be the difference between recovering. The animal might be dead, but you could screw it up so bad that you don't recover it, or you do recover it if you do it right or wrong.
So funny enough, yes, this is 100% correct. My buck in Ohio that I shot last year and we never found was recovered.
It was?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you didn't know that? No. Yeah.
Yeah. So Bones, shout out, buddy. While he was down over the holiday, they did find the buck, and he was just across the private line off of public. We had walked within 20 yards of him multiple times, but never crossed to private to check.
So how far was that from where you shot, you think?
200 yards. So it wasn't perfect, but it wasn't as bad in my mind as I thought it was. And he went exactly like we thought, but he kept going onto private and piled up right across the line.
There it is there.
Yeah. Yep. So
those guys at home,
we're going to get that picked up, and I'll at least have the skull.
Oh, they're going to give it to you.
Yep. He's going to give it to us. He was cool with it. So very happy.
He knew.
Yeah, because the way it all worked out with Bones and the guy he had met down there while we were hunting turned out to be his buddy. put them all onto this. They all got in touch, and Bones had just messaged me and goes, "Hey, I think we found your buck. Is this him?" I went, "I can't say for certain. Where was he?" And he kind of walked me through it. I said, "Well, he was a big 7." He goes, "Yeah, he's 7." I said, "I don't remember that weird side, but I only saw him for 10 seconds. I said, there's a damn good chance. Are you sure?" He goes, "We walked in there and it's right where we were walking." I was like, "You got to be shitting me."
Yeah,
So,
and that's how those things go, man. I mean,
yeah.
you would hope that it tells that story for you, but it didn't.
When it falls 20 feet past a tree that has a no trespassing sign, what do?
Yeah, you can't, especially in that state.
We didn't really think he went that way, though. We anticipated him going a whole different direction. We were going downhill. We were going to water, but he just happened to cut and go right into the private because it was thick.
It goes to toe. It definitely goes to toe. Yeah, that's just crazy, man. It's absolutely nuts. It is what it is, though, man. You got him, and the story is closed for you.
We know the deer went
important.
down.
That's a big thing. That's knowing
that it was a big relief. It was good.
It is totally a big relief. That's amazing. I tell you, I'm looking forward to the season.
Oh yeah,
because it's not even. I mean, Martic has shot his buck. I have a couple that I'm in chase of. Everyone keeps asking me, "Do you have a big one you're after?" I don't know.
I'm after everybody has one that walks in front of me.
Yeah, everybody has a big one that they're after, right? I mean, like that's.
You know what's funny though? In the last, you shoot a big buck, a lot of people reach out to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Congratulations, whatever. And I respond to every one of them and love talking to everybody. I cannot tell you how many people I've talked just yesterday alone. 3 people that I'm not going to mention names, but I could probably just say their first name and you'd know exactly who I'm talking about.
Well, they're probably listening.
They're definitely listening. How unprepared they are for the they straight up said like, "Dude, I haven't done shit." And I'm dude, don't worry, man. There's a ton of time. Like it happens.
It's beginning.
Been there, done that. Trust me, you know what I mean? Because like every year, Trev, I know all 3 of us have put in a more work this year than the year before,
and then
the year before, the year before. You know what I mean? We're kind of slowly getting it dialed in. I can honestly say that I'm more prepared this year than ever before. And I'll still tell you a pile of shit that I wish I did. You never.
Well, we've already talked about it. The season hadn't even started, and we were talking about what we're going to do and the things we're going to do next year.
So
exactly.
The way I look at it is basically you do everything you can do until you run out of time. You just don't stop until the time's up. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But like the message is to all those people that feel like they're behind. You're not barefoot and pregnant. Like you're not alone. There's probably more people out
barefoot
there.
And pregnant. It's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this 2022.
But you know what I mean? Like you're not alone. There's probably more people out there that are shitting their pants right now than feel like they're actually prepared.
So I did what I feel is above and beyond what I've done in the past couple of years, right? And it's one of those things. It's great, right? One of the things I did not do is I have the cameras in all the right places. I'm getting all the pictures I need. I'm getting all the intel and all of the other shit. I was placing my cameras and stuff, but I never thought of trees to set up in and shooting lanes to shoot them in. So opening morning, I went into a preset. Opening afternoon, I went into a camera that's been hitting hard on a scrape because I set my season on scrapes this year. And I'm happy with it. Actually, it was funny is if you guys are watching the podcast, you see me when Steve is telling his story, Martic is telling the story. I lean back and I'm looking. Well, that buck on the river runs through it. He showed back up on the scrape again.
Did he?
But so that's
river,
So that's
what about the other one? Did that hit tonight?
The high ground?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. It's on the other camera system, but so the river one, that one hit. So I had gone in there in the afternoon, and I got in there, and I'm like, bro, what tree do I set in? Because when I had gone in there, I hadn't been in there since May.
Right.
May, and I set my camera in there. Well, I went back in now, and everything's green. So the tree I thought I was gonna sit in, You are not sitting in that
Not
tree. It's not
viable.
going to happen. No, it's not. So I don't even know what tree I'm going to end up hunting out of, but I'm getting the most sign in that area. So I have to kind of figure out what I'm going to do. But so that it doesn't matter. Like you just play by the variables.
I dropped the ball in the same exact place. My shed hunting was superb. My winter scouting was superb. My summer scouting, my trail cameras, everything was superb. I did not prep shit for trees.
Yeah.
For hanging bangs.
Yeah.
I've got trees
presets.
marked. No, not preset. Well, I've got presets at the house, but for my hanging bangs, I have a few trees that I can go straight to that tree, and I know that's the tree I want to be in.
Right.
No shooting lanes trimmed.
I'm okay with no shooting.
I've never been in the tree. I just know there's a tree where I want to be.
It keeps it fun. It keeps it alive, I guess. You know, I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
There's literally nothing.
I don't mind it for an evening sit. I'm a big morning hunter, you know?
Yeah.
And for a morning hunt, I just really like to know the tree I'm going to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like going in the dark and picking a tree in the dark. I like to at least know I've exact tree that I'm going to be hanging in. Kind of dropped the ball there, but we'll see what happens. Yeah. Let it ride, you know?
It's working out so far.
So one thing though, that me and Trev talked about, this is a kind of little teaser. Me and Trev had talked about it. I don't even know if Steven knows too much about this, but one thing that I would like to do once we get through this season and the next season is really try to kind of come up with a game plan and kind of keep everybody motivated as we start like 2023 to kind of keep it in everybody's head to like stay on track for, you know, what you should be doing for, you know, the given time of the year, whether it be shed hunting or postseason scouting or setting your cameras, because, you know, I like to try to get my cameras out by July 4th, give or take, you know, end of June, beginning of July. And like, I've talked to some people who are like, man, I don't even have a camera out because I mean, it's 100 degrees out. It's hot. There's bugs. It's humid. Like the last thing you're thinking, a lot of people aren't thinking about deer in July, but you know, sometimes you just need a little bit of motivation to just, you know what, today's the day I got to get out and get those damn cameras in, because once you get them out, they're out. You know what I mean? The hardest part.
I think a lot of people just don't know the timeline that they should be doing some of that stuff.
We kind of want to keep the timeline going to say, hey, you know what? It's July 4th. Get those cameras out. Hey, it's August. You should be getting those shooting lanes cut or those presets in. You know what I mean?
To keep that motivation. I mean, that's kind of
and like you said, the timeline.
Yeah, it's very important. Right. I mean, it's that whole motivation of the drive, like to drive you forward to do something that you know that you should be doing throughout the season.
The way I look at it is, it doesn't always work out this way, but if you work really, really hard 9 months out of the year, January to September or August, say, it makes your deer season easy. If you take it easy in the off season, you're in for a hard deer season. Mm-hmm. So I look at it like, deer season's a grind. Like it is a physical and mental grind, putting in the hours in the stand. But that's the easy part. I already did the hard part. I already did the shed hunting. I already ran the cameras. I hung the stands. I did my scouting. I set the stage. The easy part is just getting out of bed and getting in the tree. See what happens. You know what I mean? Because the hard part's done. The homework's done. You know what I mean? Now this is the easy part.
It's nice going into the season. It's nice almost being over prepared, because now you have to bounce off your friends on which tree stand you want to go to.
Yeah, that's where it gets fun. Is it's like, should I go here or should I go here? Should I chase this deer or should I chase that deer?
And knowing where those deer are and how to work on those deer I think that's the funnest part in my mind. Like right now, I mean, like, you know, the season has just started. Steve has one more bow tag, but already ready to work on another deer potentially. You know what I'm saying? Which is cool. You know, like that makes it fun. You know, and you already know because you've already done that work and you've had those areas to do that. And it makes things a little bit easier. Well, it's good, you know, I mean, not everybody has those options.
No, but it goes back to what we were just saying about, if you do that, you're not going to get those options if you don't do the work.
Don't do the work.
You put in the extra work this year and now you've got options.
That goes back on all the stuff that we all talk about, that, you know, where that arrogant, pompous hashtag that we use all the time, killer's going to kill.
Yeah.
That's what that is. It's not about killing. It's about going above and beyond out of that bubble.
It's driving yourself to succeed.
Yeah, right. That's all it is, man.
Find a way.
You're gonna make the way.
Yes.
No matter what it takes.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you a story. I know we already mentioned my wife early because she's the shit, but like, I can tell you, like, one time this summer, I was getting ready to hang. I had like 3 brand new cell cams I had just bought. They're in the truck, and I was gonna hang them after work. And it's freaking pouring rain out. And I text Sarah at work, I was at work. She was at home, and I said, "Hey, meet me at such and such place at 4:45. Bring me a rain jacket and a hot cup of coffee and a Yeti." And she's like, "You're not really gonna hang cameras today, are you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am.
Damn
like,
right I am.
They're going in today. They're going. I don't care how hard it's raining. The cameras are going." And bless her heart, she met me where I told her to do it 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, it's, it's do or die. It's like shit's got to get done. It's not going to get done by itself. You know what I mean? Because you can make every excuse in the world to not do it. It's shed hunting when it's 30 degrees out and there's snow on the ground. Like, it's real easy to roll over and go back to bed.
Miserable.
When it's 100 degrees out and you don't want to hang tree stands, it's real easy to be like, you know what? I'll wait till tomorrow when it's cool.
That's one of the problems I think I have with social media. Is social media gives you that persona that everything's so easy. They don't get to see the killer's gonna kill aspect and grind that we go through every single day, man. It just looks good on the outside, but dig deep and see what's really on the inside. And a lot of you guys live that life, so you understand it, but a lot of people don't. They say, "Oh, Steve, it's opening day and Steve killed ET. Must be nice." But did you not recognize the 120 hours that he put on to get that deer? Or, you know what I'm saying? Or those turkeys that we went above and beyond to try and hunt, that we've been scouting for 2.5 months before we even got there, or to get the pictures of the deer that we have that we spent fucking 100 miles to hike to find. Like, those things get missed a lot, but that's that killer's going to kill instinct of you're going to go above and beyond no matter what it takes to put something on the ground, period. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It does not matter.
I forget who I was talking about this the other day, but when like when we were kids, like the internet was first coming out and you got your first email address.
Yeah.
And like, it was always something corny, like whatever your hobby was at the time, you know what I mean? Like motocross guy or whatever, you know what I mean? Like my first email was bigbuck365 at whatever, AOL.com or whatever. But I was a young teenager and that was my mindset then. It was big buck 365 days a year. Like, what can I do today to shoot a big buck this fall? Whether it's January, February, March, April, May, June, like is it road scouting? Is it e-scouting? Is it shed? You know what I mean? Like, I was always, what can I do on this day of the year to prepare me for this fall? You know what I mean?
And you just got to stay out there and just keep doing your due diligence to make those things happen. I mean, that is so important, where that's what makes you successful in that season. It makes you that successful.
Well, we're just going to keep rolling it out for the season because we're off to a fiery start and there's plenty more to come. So,
are we ending this?
Yeah, probably should, bro. We're rolling on 2 hours.
That's all right. I knew that was going to happen. Great. I wanted to say this. We kind of skipped over earlier. So we talked about the whole score thing with my buck. I said I didn't want to say what it was because I don't care, but I had to get it scored because of Bow Hunting League. And that's the only reason why I got it scored. So if you really want to know that bad, you can go to www.bowhuntingleague.com and you can look it up and it'll be on there. But I'm not gonna post it. I'm not gonna say it. If you want to know that bad, go check out DA's website.
We're gonna I'm gonna touch on it real quick. I know we're gonna break off here, guys, because everybody's been listening and everybody's got a lot of.
I bet you they want more. Yes,
I know, but this is some people kind of they complain because they're like, oh, what the hell? Like, the podcast, it could have went on longer.
Yeah, me.
And some people, Steve is one of them. And I like longer podcasts, but life gets in the way. I mean, we got to have dinner. I work and everything, but it's nice to sit down with the boys and have a good chat. The whole point on the whole Bow Hunting League thing is you guys have all know that we've been friends with Ben and DA for quite some time. DA is a close friend of ours.
Right.
Somebody that we all
big supporter.
I know Steven talks to him regularly. I talk to him regularly.
You a little bit more recently, yeah.
And the team over there is somebody who's dear in heart to us. We weren't going to do the Bow Hunting League this year. Steve wasn't going to.
I didn't want to do it. Nope.
I really didn't care to do it. It didn't, because I know I'm not going to place. I mean, I potentially could, but in the same token, and I know Steve didn't want to do it, but it's not that we didn't want to do it. It's just that it's not that we didn't want to do it.
We're doing it to support the league. We're not doing it for scores. We're not trying to get our name out there.
That's what I meant to say.
I'm a big buck killer. We're doing this to support them. And if we end up submitting spikes, we submit spikes.
Right.
You can blow them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the score to us. We, as friends that support us, because DA and Ben listen to our podcast regularly, we're going to give back to the bow hunting league
as a family,
something that we believe in because we support one another. We aren't competitive, and we've never been competitive with big deer. That's not our thing.
Shoot what makes you happy.
I personally, I'm in my entire life since I was a kid was killing. Killing is my forte in life. Like that. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about it. It's the truth. Whether it's killing fish, whether it's killing pigs, whether it's killing fucking cows, it's killing does, it's killing turkeys, or it's something that I enjoy. It's something, it might sound serial killers, but it's something that it's been instilled in my blood since I was a kid. I'm into the great outdoors and hunting for food. I'm a fat ass. I like to eat, so I like food, and I like to. It's just what it is. The score aspect of it means absolutely nothing to me. The point that I don't even know what the point is, honestly, but we're on the bow hunting league for the support and the love of our friends. Yeah. Period.
And like my big thing was I didn't really want to do bow hunting league because I didn't want in any way, shape, or form bow hunting league be in the back of my head whether I wanted to shoot a deer or not. Correct. Or whether or not that deer was big enough for bow hunting league or whatever. Like, no, I'm gonna shoot what I want to shoot regardless. But our name's on the list for bow hunting league out of love and support for those guys. Yeah. So, like I said, if the number means that much to you, give DA and Ben a like and a follow on Bow Hunter League, and you can look it up there, and it'll be posted. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to throw it around. You know,
inches means absolutely nothing. Like I've only measured one deer in my life. Steve has only measured one deer in his. The second one. But I only have my first, which is a Pope and Young, or I know it's a Pope and Young deer. I never measured my first deer. I had no interest in measuring my first deer. I still have not measured my first big buck with a bow. It's never been measured before. My second Ohio one was measured because everybody was asking me what the score was, but the score never meant anything to me as far as what it is. And it definitely didn't mean anything to me score-wise last year when I had made the statement that I'm going to target a small deer and I will kill that deer no matter what it takes, because I'm going to set that goal of shooting a small deer, and I will shoot a small deer, and I did shoot a small deer, and I don't care. That deer actually is probably one of the most badass deer that I've ever shot in my entire life. I don't think you guys even have ever seen this. Let me show you something. Hold on one second.
So if you get on the video
while Trev goes and gets that, I got a funny story that he just reminded me of. That is, yes.
So this deer, if you guys aren't on the YouTube side, it's probably cool to go check this out at this time frame.
Like, follow, and subscribe over there too if you haven't yet.
So this deer, all right. So you see this deer, it's a giant spike horn, right? He had an acorn, but my dumbass broke it getting in and out of the boat. But so he had an acorn on the top. He's a big, giant trophy spike. On this side of his face, he had a broken eye socket. He was actually blind in one side. So when I had shot this deer, when he had stood up out of the frag grass, he had stood up and he was kind of like trying to turn his head, but he's looking at me like this. And I didn't realize what was wrong. He was blind in one of his eyes, and it had actually started to close up his eye socket. It is why it's absolutely
we're talking about the bone. If you're just listening, the bone is literally closing over the eye.
You must have been on the blind side. That's why
I was on the blind side. Yeah, I shot him from the ground, but yeah, so it had the eye socket bone had actually closed up. It's about the size of a dime. What it would have been the size of a half dollar or whatever, and it's down to about a dime where the bone had actually closed up on its eye. So it's just cool, man. But the score doesn't mean anything to us. We don't believe in the score. We don't believe in trophy hunting per se. We like to chase mature animals and take mature animals. That's our goal and everything. And I just didn't appreciate the score thing. It just didn't. I don't know. It didn't sit well with us. We don't, we're just normal, average dudes that are out there just enjoying the great outdoors, and that's the most important thing to us, honestly, 100%.
Hey, so real quick, we'll wrap this up real quick. You guys will enjoy this. So, back to what you were just saying a little bit ago about you just like enjoy killing shit, whether killing fish or cows or whatever. So, a couple of weeks ago, I'm sitting on the couch with Sarah, and I'm watching the new Jurassic Park movie, which was actually really good. I enjoyed it. I'm not a real big movie buff. I don't watch a lot of movies, but I'm watching Jurassic Park, and I just remember one part of the movie. They're like going through the forest, and there's this like dinosaur and shit, and I was like, dude, if I was alive back then, I would kill the shit out of that dinosaur. You know what I mean? Like the whole killer's gonna kill, or like, I kind of had this. I'm glad we're kind of skipping it, but the whole like what drives you outdoors kind of thing. It was like, doesn't matter when I would have been on this world, I'd be killing shit. You know what I mean? Like whether it's a mammoth and I'm just hucking spears, or like T-Rexes and shit. Like something's gonna die.
For me, it's that adrenaline, man. It's that extra. It's just that. You put in all that time and effort to try and trick something in its own natural habitat. And when it does come together and that starts to get that ticker ticking, it's something else, man. I don't care what it is. I enjoy shooting does. I don't care.
Yeah, but have you killed a T-Rex with a spear?
Saying, dude, Only if it's foam. I've killed foam. But I've never got the real thing. You find one, let me know.
But but trying to kill a T-Rex, I guess, would be like, honestly, it'd be like going after a grizzly bear, I guess, on the dangerous side, the dangerous animal side of it, or something from the big six.
Yeah.
That's going to get your adrenaline pumping.
Yeah, whatever. Woolly mammoth or whatever.
900 grain arrow at 80 yards.
Yeah, whatever. What would the kill zone be on that?
We'll go into that down the road, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's true.
So, anyways, I thought that was funny.
That's priceless. Absolutely priceless.
That's sweet. Well, it's a good note to leave off with. And guys, again, Martic, congratulations.
Thanks, buddy.
Way to kick off the season. And you guys stay tuned, because I got a feeling we're in for one hell of a wild ride.
Oh, yeah.
And all I can say is, until then, thanks for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.